Education now convened in a regular board meeting on Wednesday, April 17th in the boardroom at 6300 Irvington Boulevard, Houston, Texas at 1 p.m. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present at this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the department are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, the board members received information related to the items on the today's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of the meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In the event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as pertinent by sections 551.071 to 551.084, inclusive of the Texas Government Code. I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in the silent mode. Thank you for taking time this afternoon to join us and for your interest in the Harris County Department of Education. At this time, I'd like to invite Benjamin Magayon to do our invocation.
Please bow your heads. Father, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to gather here today. For each mind and heart that feels the presence of this room, we thank you, Lord. We ask that you give us the knowledge to make the best decision for your children. May your will be done through our efforts. Bless this meeting, all those present, as well as the lives of those we will encounter. In Jesus' name, we pray, amen. Amen.
Invite Sheridan LeBay to the podium for the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, before we start the open forum, our attorney has something that we need to discuss first.
Yes, please. With the board's permission, I'd request that we adjourn to executive session due to a pending hearing that's going to begin at 1:30. So I can discuss some pertinent, very timely matters with you all. So with the board's permission, I'd like to adjourn to executive session under 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, and the time is 1:06.
Without objection. We stand adjourned for just a few minutes. Harris County Department of Education will reconvene. It is now 1:23. This will begin our open forum portion of the meeting. Jason Powers, would you please come to the...
Good afternoon. I'm Jason Powers. I'm a partner at the law firm of Vincent & Elkins, and I'm a member of the board of the Houston Urban Debate League. And I'm here today to bring you greetings and gratitude from the league for your support of the CASE Debates program, which is invigorating high school debate among economically disadvantaged students in our area. A little bit about the league. We are now in our 11th year. We began it because at the time we started it, there was literally one high school in the entire Houston Independent School District that was offering debate to its students, and we thought that was a real problem. Debate is an activity that teaches reading and research, it teaches critical thinking, it teaches collaboration and time management, and the published research that's out there shows that when you reinstitute debate programs at economically disadvantaged inner-city schools, the students who participate learn skills that help them across their curriculum. And they get better. Even when you control for their prior academic achievement and their socioeconomic status, students who get into debate programs, they miss fewer days of school. They're about 20% more likely to graduate. They pick up about 3 points on their ACT college readiness exams, and they pick up about half a point of GPA on the 4-point scale. So we started this organization to promote the activity. We began with a partnership with HISD to bring debate programs into Title I schools. Our role in this, the district brings students, they bring stipends for teachers to serve as coaches. We bring volunteers to help judge rounds, and we raise money from private donors. That money goes to help run a summer instructional camp, as well as provide scholarships and postseason travel opportunities for our top competitors. And those kinds of incentives, those kinds of awards, turn out to be a very powerful motivator for our students. Because when students find out there's something they can achieve, that they can aim for, they want to succeed, and they stay after school, and they do independent research, and they come to our tournaments on weekends, and we think of it as the kind of program where you get to put in this much teaching and you get this much learning out of it, because the students are more motivated to derive more learning out of what they're being taught when we tap into their competitive drive. So we've been doing well with the HISD, and we wanted to reach more students. And with Commissioner Cagle's leadership and your support, we started the CASE program started last year. It's CASE Debates Initiative, with a pilot season last year and a full season this year, and we couldn't be more pleased with the results. You have brought some terrific talent to bear in Lisa Carruthers and Tony Candace and Andy Stubbs and Javier Lopez. CASE Debates is now in 15 high schools in 6 districts throughout Harris County. You've got about 300 students participating. It's a diverse group. It mirrors the Title I schools that these kids come from. We think we're going to have more than 3 dozen of them at our summer camp at the University of Houston this summer, spending a whole week with our coaches and our volunteers. That's a few more than last summer. And we think that's a really important piece of the program, because those students who are our summer participants, they become devoted, they become excited, they go back to their home schools, and they generate more enthusiasm there. And it's been a successful competitive year, too. We held our city championship last month at the federal courthouse, where our HISD students and our CASE students participate side by side, and we had 11 CASE students who placed either first or second in their respective divisions with their teams and earned scholarship monies from our donors for that activity. And if you want to see their pictures, go to our website, HoustonUrbanDebate.org, and you can see them there. And here's the best part. Every year, we send our city champions and our runners-up in policy debate to attend the Urban Debate National Championship that's put on by the National Association of Urban Debate Leagues. We pay for that travel with private donations, and the students go up against the city champions from 22 urban debate leagues from around the country, all the way from Miami to San Francisco to Boston to LA. In those competitions over the years, we've had good days and we've had some learning experiences as these things go. But in the 11 years we've been doing this, we have never managed to get a team into the national semifinal round. Last weekend, we sent our city champions and our runners-up to Georgetown University for the championship tournament in Washington, D.C. This year, both those teams were CASE teams, and it is my privilege to inform you that for the first time ever, a Houston team got to debate for the national title in urban debate. This is Hillary Wynn and Queen Ichi from Alief Kerr High School took second place in the nation last weekend. That kind of success is going to be an inspiration to our members. It's going to be an inspiration to our students. It's going to get more kids more excited about debate. It's going to get our donors and our volunteers more energized about what we can do. And that multiplier effect is going to change kids' lives. So I think this board ought to be proud of these students. I think you have unlocked their drive. You have unlocked our enthusiasm. And I just want to tell you, on behalf of the board of the league and from the bottom of this former high school debater's heart, thank you so much for making that opportunity a reality. and I hope that we can continue changing kids' lives for years to come. Thank you very much.
Mr. Powers. I'm sorry, and I normally don't do this, but I didn't hear everything you said, and I need some clarification.
Sure.
Now, you said our case debates has been going on for how long?
You had a pilot season last year, and
It was
this
a pilot
this was
season.
your first full season
Oh,
this year.
this was our first full season?
That's right.
Okay. And they went to where? Was it the national
The
championship?
national championship at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C.
Did well there?
They did second place in the United States of America, sir.
That's like an All-American, huh? Thank you, I'm sorry, thank you.
Don't go yet. Hold on. One more question. From what I understand, they also got a chance to meet Dr. Freeman over at Texas Southern. From what I understand,
That's right. Texas Southern University's Dr. Freeman, of course, is a treasure in the debate community, has been an inspiration to our students for years.
And for those who aren't familiar with Dr. Freeman actually was Barbara Jordan's coach. He's about to celebrate his 100th birthday. So he, when Denzel was training for the Great Debaters, he actually went to Dr. Freeman because he was during that era of the 40s and 50s when the debates were segregated. So yes, I heard that. I want to make sure I also gave a kudos on exposing the students to living legends, living history, and exposing them to the national championship. So
Right.
all around kudos. I just want to make sure
Our
everybody
highest,
else.
our highest award to our volunteer each year is the Thomas Freeman Award, and his devotion and his commitment to helping these students has been tremendous.
Absolutely. Kudos again.
Thank you, sir.
Ben Miller, will you please, there you go.
Sorry, everyone. I'm going to pop this bubble of excitement. My name is Jonathan Miller, and I'm here today to specifically address issues 7A and 9A on the agenda. Recently, HILCO has been removed as a lobbying group for HCDE. In lieu of this, several concerned citizens, myself included, have been lobbying on behalf of HCDE on our own time. We are pushing for all state senators and legislatures representatives to reject House Bill 4626 and SB 2312, which are sunset bills which are aimed to close this board or severely damage its ability to collect taxes. Conveniently, House Bill 4626 is in committee today, which is the same day as this board meeting. So you may notice that we have some less people than normal to speak. They are actually in Austin today to testify on behalf of HCDE. When HCDE eliminated the contract, it shows that maybe not all the board members have the best interests of HCDE. Concerned citizens should not have to take vacation days to protect HCDE because the board does not have the will to fight for it. There are no reasons why citizens show more concern than its elected public officers. And any board member that is against hiring lobbyists and reinstating HILCO to lobby in Austin should stop and ask themselves, do they have the best interests of HCDE? And if they don't, they shouldn't be on this board. I and concerned citizens of Harris County urge the board to reinstate HILCO for the remainder of the legislative session. When we met with all the representatives, and I met with them last week, all the representatives in Harris County, most of our state senators and representatives are on board to save HCDE and understand how important it is, and that includes the Republicans and the Democrats. However, alarmingly, several senators expressed to me personally that they have concerns over recent actions of a specific board member, calling him out by name. The actions of Trustee Wolf are widely known across the state and talked about concerning the future of HCDE. HCDE is an endangered species in Texas. As the last county Department of Education, we must protect it, as the citizens of Harris County know how important it is. However, Trustee Wolf's actions reflect poorly on HCDE, and the fact that, that representatives across the state have expressed concern about HCDE because of his actions should be alarming to this board. It would be a travesty that if this crucial board is dismantled due to the bad actions of Trustee Wolf. I and the concerned citizens of Harris County urge the board to censure Trustee Wolf. You must show that his actions are not appropriate or acceptable in HCDE, and the actions of one bad trustee should not and will not be tolerated. And due to recent events, I urge the board to not stop the vote on censuring Trustee Wolf just because he's issued a defamation lawsuit. And if Trustee Wolf had any decency or care for HCDE, he would resign for the remainder of his term while this lawsuit goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Wallenstein.
Okay, Mr. President, thank you for your time. My name is Josh Wallenstein, or Stein, either way. I'm a compliance attorney, either way. And like Jonathan Miller, I noted for the record that one of our constant companions at this meeting, Colleen Vera, is not here today because she is, unlike you, instead in Austin to support the elimination of this body. So perhaps, like Jonathan suggests, you should reconsider your decision to eliminate your representation in Austin should you not be able to attend. In any event, I wasn't going to come to this board meeting today. I thought you were going to hold an extraordinary meeting to consider the censure of Trustee Michael Wolf. This was not done, and so then I was confident that you would schedule this censure discussion for today's meeting, and so you have. But I'm here for a derivative reason. You may be aware that today, well, actually yesterday evening, Mike Wolf filed a defamation lawsuit that Jonathan Miller described, requesting injunctive relief against you, well, against the HCDE. And it's case 2019-27081. Three things to say about that case. One, I'm not offering you legal advice. I'm not your attorney, but I can be if you call me separately. But I will say that just today I conducted a seminar on the appropriate standard of proof for internal investigations, right? You're not a court. You don't have subpoena power. You don't have police force power. So my non-legal opinion to you and to Mike Wolf when he returns is that you all are held to a preponderance of the evidence standard. That is, was it more likely than not after a credible and reasonable investigation that the case was substantiated? And if so, what are your conclusions that you draw from that, and are they reasonable? And based on my reading of your report that is public and Mike Wolf's own admissions in that report, I believe the case to be substantiated after credible and reasonable review. And I would thus feel comfortable discussing discipline in light of this investigation and its conclusions, which cannot be defamation if they reasonably rely on a credible investigation. Now, the suit requesting injunctive relief was precipitously filed the evening before this meeting, and that likely was not a coincidence. Please do not allow a mere court filing, note, a court filing that has not been decided, into consideration during your deliberations. Instead, I question Trustee Wolf's intentions. Did Mike file a case against the local Republican Party when it fired him for not following the rules? Did he file a case against this very board when it previously censured him for not following the rules? Did he file a case against Trustee Eric Dick when he was accused of laundering $28,000 of campaign loans into his personal account? This is a specious case filing not worthy of consideration by you, except that it not only accuses the HCDE of defamation, it also reveals the name of the alleged victim, Jane Doe. And it seems that he did this deliberately in likely contravention of your own policies. Victims wish to remain nameless for a good reason. They fear retribution and they wish to avoid the public eye. And in this investigation, she was named Jane Doe precisely for those reasons. Publicly naming victims who wish to remain nameless chills the environment, and it gives people a sense that they can't trust the internal processes where they work. And that's why it violates corporate policies in every corporation I've ever worked in, and all of my clients, and I imagine the policies of this board and the Department of Education. It's also repugnant and immoral and unethical. Trustee Wolf, or at least Trustee Wolf's chair, because he's not even present during these meetings, the victim merely provided information that your own board demanded. The victim is merely your victim, Trustee Wolf, and instead of protecting your victim, you subjected her to all of the public shame and the fear of retribution that will cause future victims to think twice before coming forward. Instead, they're going to either report to the authorities or not at all. Both are entirely unacceptable and entirely you're doing, Trustee Wolf? Have you no shame, Trustee Wolf? No shame at all, Trustee Wolf? Please let us rid ourselves of more Michael Wolf.
Is it a violation of our policy to name the victim in a lawsuit? I really want to know. Someone answer that?
I'm happy to provide legal advice to the board on that exact issue, but I'd prefer to preserve the privilege in closed session. If that's
Thank you. Let's
acceptable.
allow the public open forum to continue. I'm sorry, I killed Josh Wallenstein's name, and now I'm getting ready to kill this one too. Amora Mercado? What? Mercado? I don't know, maybe it's just spelled wrong here.
Yeah. Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Amari Mercado. So, I'm here to support bringing the Hillco contract back. This was ensuring that we had someone representing us and our tax dollars in Austin, because there are currently bills in the Texas House and Senate to make a decision about what happens to our public education dollars. I want representation there to support these programs. The following people in my precinct and neighboring precincts depend on these programs. They are not here because they are at work, working 2 jobs, and don't have the luxury of missing work to testify here. The names are Roy Manuel Ramirez, Ramon Verduga Garcia, Artemio Alice Garcia, Robert Waldron, Alicia Denise, Julio Trujillo, Jamie Velasquez, Alice Hernandez, Adrian Valdez, Frankie Jimenez, Terry Gracian, Alex Espinosa, Felix Diaz, Fernando Flores, Aisha Serrano, Joe Sanders, Ms. Velma Vallejo, Ms. Blanca Soto, Mr. Brandon Jeffrey, Ms. Belinda Monjarras, Ms. Melissa Briseño, Mr. Pablo Cortez, Mrs. Mercedes Leon, Mr. John Mendez, Ms. Sonia Jerez, Mr. Alejandro Guzman, Mr. Joel Nunez, Mr. Cesar Villegas, Mrs. Karen Leon, Mr. Greg Carrillo, Mr. James Whitaker, and I'm almost done, Ms. Cynthia Oraña, Mr. Jesus Semental, Mr. Gabriel Gutierrez, and Ms. Alejandra Mesa King is what I have right now. So these people are either at work and can't be here, working 2 jobs. So please urge you to reconsider bringing the Hillco contract back so we could have representation in Austin. Additionally, please do not sit back and allow someone being censured for sexual harassment to idle by on the Department of Education. You don't want to be held accountable for a decision like that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Shirley Nicola?
Hi, my name is Shirley Nicola. I am the principal to HR Consulting under Shirley Nicola LLC. I am also a longtime citizen of Harris County. And I've just learned about what's happened to the board and have tried to come up to snuff on what's happening. But my biggest concern is I've been in Austin probably the last 3 times in the last 30 days fighting for education. We need to have every resource available to fight for our students. If Hillco has gotten the ability and to lobby for us to make sure our programs stay into place, we need to do that at all cost. You just see too much of education being ignored. So I'm hoping that this board will reconsider and put the Hillco contract back. Our students out there for all these special programs have to have it. I will continue fighting for this, as long as I can, and many of us will. But we shouldn't have to do this. It should be there, and everyone should be involved in it and make sure the best things are happening for our students. Thank you for your time.
Jennifer Cazares.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Cazares, and I'm here supporting the agenda item to bring back the Hillco contract because these programs fund special education and early childhood education programs that help people who desperately need them, and we need someone standing up for us in Austin. Sharing costs amongst ISDs is a cost-effective way to support our community. HB 4626 filed by Representative Swanson and SB 2312 filed by Senator Benincourt will directly affect this board on September 1st, 2019 if it's passed by the Texas legislature. These bills will trigger a review of this board as if it were scheduled to be abolished September 1st, 2021. Additionally, the Sunset Advisory Commission will charge the Department of Ed for the review performed, who will determine the cost. I again urge the board to reinstate the Hillco contract. Thank you.
Rui Tuo.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I'm just here as a citizen and a parent, to please plead the board to do the right thing for the students and the families in the board, because we're all depending on you. This is a position of public trust, and you're elected because we trust you. And I hope that you'll make the right decision by reinstating Hillco's contract, and also make sure that the integrity of the board is maintained, that we can still maintain our trust of the board. Thank you.
Goldberg.
Good afternoon. Father David Goldberg from St. Peter's Episcopal Church, Iglesia Episcopal San Pedro. I wanted to come here to thank you and your department for the good work that you all do. I sit on the board of North Pasadena Community Outreach, which partners with Harris County Department of Education, and we see hundreds of folks come through our ESL and GED courses. And the work that your department's doing, especially the Adult Education Division under Stephanie Ross, is truly transforming lives. We are a school for citizenship in so many ways, and I've seen folks come in with little to no knowledge of English and leave in months and maybe years with being fully participating members of society and beyond. So thank you for the good work that you all do, and que Dios les bendiga por este servicio. Gracias.
Thank you. Seeing that there are no more for the open forum, we're going to go ahead and right into our reports. So the presentation of the 2019 Texas Association Board of Business and Officials, recognizing award of merit for purchasing operations. Jesus Amezcua.
Yes, we'd like to present, this is the 8th year that the department receives this award from the Texas Association of School Business Officials. Our purchasing staff and our choice staffs are here if you'd like them to stand up because they're part of the award. They go through a review once a year about our procedures, about our contracts, and so this guy, Mr. Monroe is our purchasing director, and HCDE was recognized at the last conference in Austin regarding the award. So you can present it to the superintendent.
The next item is Harris County Department of Education was awarded the Certificate of Distinction in its investment policy from the Government Treasurers Organization of Texas.
Every 2 years, we submit a review of our investment policy to the Government Treasurers Officers Association, and they review it for compliance and meeting our statutory standards. And we have been recognized once again. This is the eighth year in a row as well that we received this this honor. And so, Ms. Samaria Torres and Jaime Martinez are our investment officers, and he'll present the investment distinction that was provided by the GTOT of Texas.
Now I believe Danielle Clark, Chief Communications Officer, presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Members of the board, we're having minor technical difficulties with our wireless, which is what is attaching all this. So I'm going to wait for it to come up a little bit. But while we're waiting, I'd like for the communications and client engagement team members who are here to stand. These are the members of our team that worked tirelessly to help us put together the campaign you're going to see today. So thank you much. Appreciate that. So today I'm going to speak with you about an awareness campaign that we are about to launch here at HCDE, if we ever get our technology going. Hisham, would you like me to proceed in the absence of the PowerPoint and give it back to you? Can you see it? Great. I can do it blind, not a problem. Okay, so did it advance the screen? There we go. So just for some historical perspective, when I was interviewed by Mr. Colbert for this position back on May 24th, 2018, so that is approximately 8-9 months ago, one of the things that I was asked to do was to present a comprehensive branding campaign for the department. And what that entailed was I had to do a proposal, could be no more than certain amount of pages, single-spaced with 1-inch margins. Had to have a PowerPoint with no more than 10 slides, and had to present my portfolio. So I did that when I came using the information at my disposal, which was predominantly publicly available information. So Mr. Colbert and I went through that, and I got the job, so I hope it was good. So I'm going to continue. Can you see the next slide? I'm blind. No? Okay, well, that's okay. It's just about what an awareness campaign is. So an awareness campaign is when brands, they look to these types of things to drive recognition, spark engagement, and foster loyalty within their community. It allows an organization to grow in meaningful and impactful ways. And I need you to understand that this is not unique to HCDE. Fortune 500 companies run awareness campaigns, small businesses run awareness campaigns, governmental entities run awareness campaigns, and other publicly funded organizations run awareness campaigns. I have personally run 4 of them in my 20 years in school PR. So again, it is not unique to Harris County Department of Education. So what we're going to talk about today is what's called an integrated multimedia campaign. And there are 3 components to it. There's a look and feel, mass media, and digital components. And just briefly, a multimedia campaign means that you're going to run your campaign on multiple different platforms to reach different segments of your audience. In today's society, we know that not everybody gets their information from the same platform or the same method. And so what we're going to talk about today is a campaign that overlaps and reaches people where they are, be that in social media, traditional media, or through mass media. So the first thing is the look and feel. So as you can see here, can you see that? Just double checking, you can see it? Okay, so as you can see here, everything we're doing has the same look and feel. So what Jerry and Sheridan are going to pass out to you today are the annual report as well as what we call a quad fold. As you will see, they have a similar look and feel. They also look very similar to the different components that are on the screen. They also mimic the push card, which is out front. They also mimic the video that you're going to see at the end, as well as the video that we've been running before the board meeting, the last 2 board meetings. So look and feel is about color, it's about font, it's about recognition of the brand through its design elements. So here you can see we have different print ads. On the right of the screen is a pop-up banner for records management. And then of course in your hand are traditional marketing collateral, the annual report, as well as what we are calling the quad fold, which is realistically a highlight of the annual report. The next component of the campaign is the digital portion. The digital portion of the campaign is primarily focusing on social media and the website. So when we look at Gmail and targeted Gmail campaigns, Facebook is a very predominant use of social media. You can do an organic post. What that means is you can just post it and it goes in your feed based on your followers. And then you can do what's called a paid boost, which pushes it out to different geographical areas, demographics. You can target it by interest. You can target it by age. You can do all sorts of different things. Also, there are click-through ads, and then on the right, you'll see our new web page for the campaign. See the change your change makes. For the campaign that is currently live on our website at hcde.org/impact. So all of that comes together. All of your digital ads are designed to drive the constituents to the web page. The web page is the kind of the big daddy of them all. It's where all of the in-depth information lies. The next thing we're going to talk about is mass media. So with an awareness campaign with an organization like Harris County Department of Education, we're in the 3rd largest county in the country. So how do you reach people? Well, you reach people, like I talked about, through these different areas. And so we also have to employ what we call traditional mass media. Mass media is where you go out and you're reaching people in mass, right? So large portions of different stakeholders with different demographics. So our traditional mass media will include radio spots, a 15-second radio spot. We'll have our video, provided we get our technology, you'll see that in a second. Our video, a 30-second video, will be in theaters around the greater Houston area. We currently have an ad in Community Impact, which is like your little local newspaper in different neighborhoods. They hit different neighborhoods around the greater Houston area, everywhere from up north from Spring all the way south down to Pearland. And then we have ads in our in statewide magazines like TSBO, Texas State Business Officials, the TASB magazine, and others like that. So that is what we consider traditional mass media. Other components of traditional mass media are billboards, and you could even do television spots on cable or on streaming, because most folks, some folks don't have cable anymore. They don't get local news. They do Hulu or Sling or whatever. So we have that. So I'm really hoping that this is going to stay up for you for a second, because I want to play for you the video. It is kind of the culmination. You'll see all of these different components in it. You'll see the look and feel, and you'll see our messaging. And we are calling, as you can see, our campaign See the Impact. So let's hope it goes.
Hey, Harris County. It's tax season. Ever wonder where your property tax money goes? Some goes to the county, some goes to the city, and some goes to special tax districts like the Harris County Department of Education. HCDE makes up one of the smallest amounts on your bill. But what exactly is it? HCDE serves all school districts in Harris County, providing a wide variety of educational services that support over 160,000 students, like schools for special needs students, preschools for low-income families, regional after-school programs, and so much more. In fact, HCDE provides over 50% of all special education therapy in the county, and the largest adult education program in Texas. So how does HCDE accomplish all of this for an average of 73 cents per month? We're able to turn every dollar of property tax into $5 through service fees, grants, and our purchasing cooperative. So when you see your property tax this year, remember that the small amount for HCDE makes a big impact on students and communities all over Harris County, all for only an average of 73 cents a month. See the change your change makes at hcde-texas.org/impact.
And that's the campaign.
So Ms. Clark, when are those commercials and where are those commercials going to show up at?
So our radio ads begin today, and they will be on 99.1 and News Talk 740. They're flighted, so they'll go like 3 weeks at a time off, and then we'll be switching stations. So that starts now, and then the movie theater commercials will start in the summer for Summer Blockbuster. I've been told we will be on Spider-Man.
No.
No.
I said Godzilla.
Oh, Godzilla. I apologize. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Kingwood area.
So we're currently placing those, and then we have our community impact ads that are already out with the Heights, and we'll be doing more of those later on in the summer for back to school. Those are the main components right now.
Question, Ms. Clark. So, well, first of all, I absolutely agree that we absolutely need. I spent most of my campaign a few months ago spending time telling people what HCD was because a lot of people didn't know, even though they all pay for it. So kudos on that. The question becomes, we heard a number of things earlier. I mean, we got awards, we have students that placed at a national competition. The question is, how do you go to highlight? Are you working with news channels to make sure that those stories are highlighted to the county? I mean, I'm just wondering.
So, good question. Part of the integrated campaign, so if you think of it as two components, you have a marketing component and then you have a straight PR communications component. So what you're referencing would be the editorial content component, of which we put on our website. Remember I told you the website was kind of the granddaddy of them all? Mm-hmm. So all information flows back to that. So we're constantly updating things, and then we have members of our team that are sending things out to the news media consistently. We've had great coverage of many different things. I think we had some case debate stuff that hit. We had a, not to steal your thunder, Mr. Colbert, we had a news station out to Fortis last week. And then, of course, we have extensive coverage in the Chronicle. So the editorial content supplements the marketing component, and we do a lot of that through our website.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much.
Vanita Peacock with the Head Start update.
Good afternoon. My name is Vanita Peacock, and I have the privilege of serving as the Senior Director of the Head Start program. And I'd like to ask my team to please stand to be recognized at this time. So at your tables, you have a quick look at our last year demographics and information from last year. And in our presentation, we'd like to share our this year, what's been going on with us for this school year. So this is our profile. We have 15 Head Start centers, 1 early Head Start center, and we work with 4 partnerships in our EHS Child Care Partnership Program. In total, we serve 1,330 students. Our operating budget, we have 2 grant numbers. So we have 2 operating budgets. One is on a January-December, which is our Head Start budget, which totals with our non-federal match over $16 million. And we have our early Head Start, which is a little over $2.5 million. This is our leadership team who works with and provide directions to all the different areas that are required in our Head Start performance standards. Our staff profile, for Head Start, we have 267 and a half staff. Early Head Start has 16, and the Child Care Partners have 9 and a half. We meet all the requirements for our program on the minimum requirements for job qualifications, and exceed it in some places. We have a wonderful, wonderful policy council who has been very active and engaged this year. And so you see here Ms. Evangelina Sanchez, our chairperson, our vice chairperson, Ms. Cara, and our parliamentary who have been consistent and committed all year long. What are our accomplishments for the year? Well, we had a Focus 2 federal review for which we came out with a clean check for EHS CCP. And EHS CCP is a completely new creation. It had never been done before. We were in the original grantees. So that was quite a feat for us. And we have met all of our requirements for our Head Start program. We have maintained full enrollment in both of our programs. And we've received a grant from the Bank of Texas to support our Super Mentor program, which we'll show you some pictures of later. Our big feather in our cap this year is that we've had an opportunity to do our initial family connection with our infant toddlers. I remember when we first got infant toddlers, I think it was Mr. Sumner says, well, what are we going to do with those young kids? Well, one of the things we do is work with parents to help them understand that what they do with their children matter. So it connects our curriculum and what we do in the classroom with what they do with their children at home. So this year we were able to successfully implement that. And we had been working to get playgrounds at our EHS CCP partnerships, all 4 of them, and we have finally accomplished that this year. So I want to give you some visuals, and so we're going to start off, you'll see we'll do our early Head Start highlights and then our Head Start highlights. This year, one of our early Head Start parents was a part of the Bates Customer Collision. So let's see what's happening at Head Start. So we had an art show and the theme was transportation. So you'll see a lot of the pictures they did from there. Our Nutrition Week. Continue to watch us grow. On the horizons, we are looking to apply for funds to replace or relocate our Coolwood Head Start. In order to to work on our retention and hiring, we have instituted an ongoing job fair. So we have another big job fair coming on June the 20th. We do it 3 times a year and interview in between. We are very excited about our Baytown ribbon cutting coming up on May 23rd. You should get saved a date soon. We really hope that you all will come and join us for that. And we will be planning to move into Baytown as soon as summer starts. And so we want to give you a little peek of what you can be in Bayt for. My report. Are there any questions?
Yes. So I've been a super mentor for 3 years at Humble Head Start, and I would strongly encourage especially our board, but any of our staff. We have a number of staff members who are super mentors. And I was, it made my day last week when I went to read, and I walked into the class, and one of the kids said, "Mr. Colbud, Mr. Colbud." I was disappointed by something, Miss Peacock. Yes, I was.
What was that?
He looked at me and he said, "You ain't got no hair." And I said, "Man, I've been coming to this class all year, and you just now realizing that? I haven't been wearing a hat." So we need to work on our kids being more observant. They're doing great. Thank you for your work.
We can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the next one is Superintendent.
Yeah, you can pass out the phone. I'm just going to do this.
That works too.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I think it was March was the last time we met. No, it was February. There was a couple of agenda items where y'all wanted me to present the status of a number of things. So I'm going to do 3 presentations today, and I'm going to have a couple of our colleagues assist me with 2 of the other ones. The first presentation that I'm going to do is on our Fortis Academy. And what I'm going to try to do is encompass the process from the inception of the school to where we currently are at right now as an organization and as a campus, and also the direction that we're going moving forward. So the way Fortis Academy started is it used to be a High Point North campus. It was one of our what we call a DAEP, a District Alternative Educational Placement. It had approximately 120 students there. But the largest client that we had at that campus was actually Spring ISD. Spring ISD got a new superintendent. That superintendent decided that they were going to make their own DAEP at Spring ISD and no longer utilize the services of High Point North. And so when they pulled out of that contract, we essentially went from 120 students to about 60 students. We essentially had to call an emergency board meeting. We had to implement a RIF process. We had to lay off 16, 17 teachers. And then the following semester, we realized that that program was no longer sustainable, and we needed to roll that existing enrollment into our High Point East campus. So not wanting to sell the property and just do away with the school, it was imperative of me to seek out the advice of people in the community, our fellow superintendents, and even members of our board to determine if we were to repurpose this campus, what would it be? We entertained a number of ideas, but ultimately it was sitting down one day and talking to Mr. Parker, and we were looking at some statistics that we realized that Harris County alone averages 10,500 drug-related incidents a year. And those are just the ones documented. So we went into PEEM's data and found that there were 10,500 on average, and some districts made up almost 20% of that number. It was a huge number. And so I told Mr. Parker, one of our primary missions is to address the blind spot of public education and maximize the tax rate to bring maximum value to the citizens of this community. And so we started looking into a rehab school, a drug rehab school, and actually I thought there was none that existed in the entire world. I thought it was brilliance on my part to come up with a concept that no one had thought of. Later on, I found out that there was a national conference for all these schools 2 weeks later. So it wasn't a brilliant idea at all, but it's unique in many ways. So what I'm gonna do is go through a timeline for you to kind of show you the progression of Fortis Academy. In November of 2016, the board approved the program change to go from a High Point campus and begin the process of developing a sobriety high school. Then in January 2017, the board took action to rescind all progress, stop everything on Fortis Academy immediately. And then there was some discussion about putting together a formalized plan a development plan to show exactly the direction that we wanted to take Fortis in. Mr. Sumner's actually made that suggestion and created the feasibility or development committee, which was actually a very good suggestion and something that we utilize in all the new initiatives that we do moving forward. In February of 2017, the development plan was presented to the feasibility committee and ultimately was in a position where we felt like we were prepared to present it to the board. April of 2017, the board approved the development plan. Some of the board members who were on this board may remember there were a number of people coming to the microphone, just like we've seen today, advocating for Harris County Department of Ed to continue moving in the direction of doing something that's so audacious to come up with a public recovery high school. In 2017, May of 2017, once we got board approval, we posted the position. We had a number of people apply. We had an interview committee, and somehow we ended up with Dr. Moten as the principal of that campus, who's doing a fantastic job and really understood and saw the vision of what we were trying to do, because this is something that is not traditional at all in public education. In August of 2017, we had a huge setback. In August of 2017, when Harvey hit, was literally the Friday before school was supposed to start the next week. We did our convocation that Thursday, and it started raining Friday, and school was supposed to begin on Monday. Fortis Academy got several inches, if not a foot, of water, but that really wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem was the impact it had on every school district, especially in the area of Fortis. Galena Park, Aldine, Sheldon, Cy-Fair, a number of them. You know, we saw Sheldon High School, who ultimately had to take their entire high school and reorganize in a church and try to run school out of their church. And so we were in the process of trying to talk about and selling seats to a Sheldon and an Humble, and Humble was trying to figure out how they were going to consolidate Kingwood High School and Atascocita High School to have a school of 6,000 students, and how they were going to do that. The Sheldon superintendent was trying to figure out where they were going to do volleyball practice at. And so no one was really in the mood to talk about enrolling students at Fortis at the time. Next, we had the board approved of the restoration of the campus from the water damage. This actually in some ways worked to our favor because of the insurance claim we were able to get. We were able to address some of the things that we were going to do in the scope of the construction for renovating that building for Fortis. We were in the middle of renovating the school and trying to build a kitchen. And so when the water came, it allowed us to leverage some of those dollars to help us and not take money out that we had allocated for the construction. February of 2018, the board reviewed the renovations, the plans, and the interior and exterior of Fortis Academy. And then on August of 2018 was the opening day. So that's August of this school year. So this wasn't the ideal rollout of Fortis Academy. We really had two hiccups in rolling out Fortis Academy. One, all the construction money, and we thought the project might get shelved permanently back in January of 2017. And then obviously when Harvey hit, not only did it impact the facility itself, but the bigger thing it impacted was districts weren't in a position to really start any new ventures. They were trying to paste and put their school back together like it had been once before. So what I'm going to show you is an ideal way that we would like to go about the enrollment process of Fortis. And it really breaks down into 4 phases. And so this is what we've been doing this year. Phase number 1 is throughout the months of September through February is the regular recruiting process, and Dr. Moten is always entertaining people coming in to visit Fortis to do walkthroughs. He's visiting ISDs, Mr. Parker and Dr. Mays are visiting with the assistant soups, the deputy soups, the principals, a number of things to open the idea that Fortis is there and what its potential and capacity actually is. Phase 2 is what we're kind of rolling out of right now, is the ability to start solidifying contracts for the next school year. It's important that when we work with ISDs that we get in front of their budget cycle trying to have a school district buy 3 and 4 seats after their board has approved a budget and they've allotted no room for that in their budget is not the way to go about filling any program. The objective is to get in front of that so they can incorporate that into the budget process. And that's what we're doing right now. Phase 3 is the professional development component, and is what we like to call, what does a Fortis student look like? So we have to remember that Fortis Academy is a paradigm shift. I'm a former assistant principal, assistant soup, all those things. Typically what I've done for years when I catch a kid who is having some illegal substance on them, or they're even high, is ultimately we send them to jail. And then when they get out of jail, they go to the alternative school. What we're proposing to our school districts is that we stop sending these kids to jail and we try to help them. There's a difference between a drug dealer and a drug user. And we don't need to fill up jails with drug users. So the professional development is absolutely essential that we're not trying to punish these kids. One of the superintendents I talked to, and I was explaining this philosophy to me, and right after I told him, he said, so how long are they sentenced for? And I'm like, did you not just hear what I said? We're not sentencing the kids to Fortis. There's no punitive component to it whatsoever. And finally, phase 4 is when the finalization of the enrollment starts, and we know exactly how many students we're going to look at. We're going to be looking at to make sure our staffing ratios are appropriate, and we've incorporated in our budget the right type of resources necessary to be able to meet the needs of those students. All right, so let's talk about current status. Right now, the school districts who have bought seats with Fortis and have been enrolled at Fortis during this past school year has been Aldine ISD, Goose Creek ISD, Galena Park ISD, Channelview, and Sheldon, okay? New seats that we have been able to sell this year is Aldine has decided to expand the number of seats that they've purchased. HISD has come aboard, Spring ISD, and LaPorte, okay? Currently, during this year, now remember, this year was a byproduct of the Harvey and the number of hiccups that we had. We didn't have the kind of rollout year that we expected to have. But currently this year, we have 8 contracts that have been sold. And Dr. Moten informed me this morning that we just sold another one for this year already, so there's 9. As we stand right now looking for the brand new school year next year for 19-20, we currently have 34 seats sold. So this is what happens when we roll this out without interference and people start opening up their mind to the conception of how this school actually works. We've more than doubled the number of seats. Now I can tell you that that number is a starting point. My guess is as of right now we have 34 seats. We could have more by August of next year, I don't know. But there are a lot of people who have a tremendous amount of interest in the direction that we're going with Fortis Academy. So I wanted to do something different. I've got a few more slides here, but there's 2 specific people that are parents of students of Fortis that I've asked to come speak to you today, and they're unique in their own way. And they each have a very unique story. Some of y'all weren't on the board when one of these parents really insisted that their child be inside this school. But he has a unique story. But what I'm finding is that this issue of dealing with sobriety is not unique to just 1 or 2 people. Everybody's affected one way or another. So at this time, I would like to call up Mr. Lopez, Aldine ISD, to come say a few words about Fortis Academy.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, board members. One of the things I want to start talking to you about is how my son began this school year. He attended 4 different high schools in 1 month and a half. Just let you know that. And one of the things I want to tell you is not because his grades were bad or not. My son has been an honor roll in all his courses in previous high schools. So it was never an issue of grades or what I can say, behavior. No, it was not. It was none of those schools provide the environment that he needs to stay sober until we find Fortis. I can spend here probably 2 hours talking about the path of the recovery, the path that can lead to be a successful young member of the society. But I would prefer, and I thank you for your presentation. I think right now it's a missing element in your presentation. And, and one of the things is it's really good to visit high schools and go around to promote this high school. But one of the elements that make this kind of programs successful is attract the young people that actually want to get off of that lifestyles, right, of the drugs. And where those kids are? Well, those kids are in the recovery centers. Here in Houston, like I've been in this kind of roller coaster for almost a year or two. My son has attended 2 of those recovery centers. Once in a while, I visit those. One of my commitments to Dr. Mutton when my son get enrolled there is I will do everything to promote this high school, to make sure that this high school get the enrollment that they need, and obviously to be a star in your system, right? The missing element is visiting these recovery centers. We have kids in those recovery centers already committed to change their life. We need to target those kids right there before they're sent back to the environment where they came from. Because that's what happened to my son. He gets out of this recovery center and he's sent back. He was sent back to the high school where he came from. So he can stay there because that's the environment that produced his drugs usage. Obviously, he's not 100%. He has to put some of his stuff, right? But what I'm saying is we need to target those. Those kids in those recovery centers. So why? Because they are already committed to something. And like I tell you, this is a wonderful effort for the district. And like I tell you, my commitment to help in any kind, in any way I can, to make sure this high school gets to the level they need to be.
Thank you so much. Real quick, I want to say that Mr. Lopez, the way I heard about him is he initially wanted his kid at Fortis Academy, and the district hadn't purchased the seat yet. So this man sent an email to, back then, Lewis Evans, the board president, all the board members on the board. He sent an email to all of Aldine ISD. He called me and sent an email to me, and he insisted that if his son wasn't put in this school, he was going to call the news, he was going to be at the board meeting. Boy, my cell phone rang about 30 minutes later from the Aldine superintendent, and we had his son in our school the next week. So kudos to you, and thank you for advocating for your son. Thank you. Next, I'd like to call up a parent whose son just recently joined Fortis Academy, and she's actually a teacher. I just found that out before our board meeting. But coming from Goose Creek, I'd like to call up Mrs. Luckett. She told me she may start crying. I told her she'd cry on my shirt.
Hi, I'm Kim Luckett, and my son was sent to Fortis, and it has been the most phenomenal experience. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But my son was very withdrawn, and it's like I told Mr. Moten that as a teacher and as a mom, I didn't see the signs of him being on drugs. And I felt very inadequate as a mother. But through this process, I have realized that they are very good at hiding their addiction. But Fortis has changed my son in ways that I cannot even begin to tell you. He, as a personal example, before said that he did not believe in God anymore, and he was raised in the church. About a month after he started attending Fortis, came home and said, "Mom, will you recite the Lord's Prayer every morning in a group?" And that was phenomenal to me. that he was willing to recite the Lord's Prayer in a group. When he would get home in the evenings, he would go to his room and not have anything to do with the family. And now he comes and he sits with us and he watches movies with us. And another example is that his grandmother lives in a retired facility, and he goes and walks all these little old women's dogs in the evening and sits and talks with these little old women, and they all think that he absolutely hung the moon. And he has them all thinking that he is absolutely just this precious little boy, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, who is this boy? Because if they only knew. But this is the boy that I remember before he got onto these drugs, and Fortis has done this for him. And before he went to Fortis, he was failing every one of his classes, and now he's got a straight A in every one of his classes. I could sit here for hours and tell you how much Fortis has changed my son's life, and he has a chance now. He has a future, whereas 6 months ago, I didn't know where he was headed. So that is my testimony, and I thank y'all so much for allowing this academy. And I have to also hand it to Goose Creek for buying the seats. And I wanted to tell you, because this thought came to me, Peyton has to get up and be at his bus stop at 5:59 in the morning. 5:59. I don't have to prompt him to get up. I don't have to beg him. He sets his alarm and gets up and is out there. He doesn't get home until 6:20 in the evening. That is over 12 hours that he is doing something related to school. And when he was going to his home school in Baytown, I had to beg and plead him to get up and go to school. So that tells me something about Fortis Academy. So thank y'all again for that.
Thank
All right.
you. So that's just a sample, powerful testimony. And Ms. Luckett, you really set me up for a couple of slides coming up here, because I'm gonna have a little ask here in a second. So there we have it. That's 2 testimonials. Now let's recap. And so what I decided to do is, we do this in our business processes all the time. Dr. Amesqua really preaches this with all of our divisions. We do what we call a SWOT analysis, our strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. So I thought that would be fitting for Fortis, because there's been some questions whether Fortis is a viable option and something that we should do or not. So I wanted to put it all out there. Certainly the strengths for Fortis is it is absolutely addressing a blind spot in public education today, but specifically in the county. There are 37 recovery high schools in the United States, and only 8 of them are public. There's only 3 in the state of Texas, and Fortis is one of them. It's the first public recovery high school in the history of Houston, and none of them have a culinary arts program in it. So that is absolutely one of the biggest strengths for Fortis. Is it is unique, and it is audacious, it is bold, and it is effective. It takes a proactive stance on a growing problem. You know, we hear a lot about the opioid epidemic. Well, there's been a drug epidemic in this country forever. And I think it's time that we start taking a proactive stance in addressing that, and I think Fortis is a step in the right direction. But also it maximizes the tax rate, where we're using it to actually benefit and change the lives of citizens of this society, and specifically the county. And we're doing it through public education. Weaknesses. One of the biggest weaknesses, and I'm not going to say any names, but this is a paradigm shift. And Fortis has been somewhat of a challenging sell to some superintendents. Superintendents are used to, unfortunately, and I was one of them, punishing people. And so it's really, I'm having to visit with superintendents and sit down with them and spend 15 minutes and explain to them and just cut through the chase. Let's get straight to it and see what the problem is. I think SUPs are sometimes worried about the optics too. They don't want to look like they have a drug problem in their district. When really I'm like, you're going to gain equity out of this because you're going to actually impact people's lives, and it's going to help you. You're not having a major drug issue. One of the other problems is transportation. You know, this is where you set me up, Ms. Luckett. I mean, it's one of the biggest problems is that there's a whole southeast corridor to our county in Baytown, in Pasadena, Goose Creek, LaPorte, Clear Creek, Pearland. All of them always have issues because there's no schools closer to them. And so one of the problems that we have is they have a need and a desire to want to purchase seats at Fortis, but they really don't have a method to get them there. It's not that they don't have a bus, they don't want their kids sitting on a bus for an hour and 30-minute riding through traffic. So that's a problem. Opportunities. It's a model of what sobriety schools could possibly look like nationwide. There are a number of unique components involved in Fortis, and one of them is that rarely ever do you see a sobriety high school that was created by educators. They're typically always created by people in the recovery industry who try to figure out how to educate children. And we're educators who decide to hire somebody with the sobriety component. Another opportunity is, like I just said a second ago, is productive citizens, but also an expansion to potentially, once Fortis gets to capacity, maybe a campus on the southeast side of the county. And I know of a number of superintendents who would love that, and probably parents where their kids wouldn't have to wake up, not at 6 o'clock, she said, 8:59. Or 5:59, I'm sorry, not at 6, 5:59. Very specific. Threats, paradigm shift. You know, continuously trying to convince superintendents we can't punish our way out of this problem. But the other threat is patience. Innovative ideas take time, and they're at their most vulnerable state at the infancy stage of the innovative idea. We need patience to give things roots so they grow and they get strong and they flourish. And so we just need patience, so that's certainly a threat. Finally, points of pride. Community outreach is one of the things I'm most proud of, is seeing these students, and you've seen a number of pictures throughout this presentation where you see these students, you know, working with cookies with elementary kids. What was the elementary school, Dr. Moten? Alberton Elementary. So what Dr. Moten's trying to do is get these kids involved in some community service. Ultimately, we want them to make meals for some of our seniors. They're going out and cooking and doing cookies with elementary students. But community outreach is certainly a point of pride. Another point of pride is that we've done 3 major presentations, or 2, and about to do 3 major presentations about Fortis already. We've done a national presentation at the National Adolescents Recovery Association of Recovery Schools. We did a presentation at TASB Midwinter Conference, and we've been invited and asked to do a presentation at the National Conference in Boston this summer. Now remember, most of these requests of people wanting to do this, it was with just 8 students at Fortis. They didn't care about the enrollment, they cared about the idea, the audaciousness of the attempt, the effort. We've been contacted by a number of ISDs who want to replicate Fortis and do a site visit, so that's a point of pride. And finally, we've been in the media multiple times. They've done a couple of specials on us with the opioid epidemic. We've seen Channel 2, Channel 13, Channel 11. We've been in the Houston Chronicle, the Impact Magazine, and Campus Safety. With that, questions, comments, concerns?
You mentioned,
Well,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned that next year is projected to be, what, 34?
34.
What's the capacity?
So research tells us that you don't want these schools getting over 70 students.
Okay.
Now, the actual physical capacity of the building, it could hold 100 students, but it would be less of an effective program. So we'd like for Fortis to max out, top out at about 70 students. But right now we're looking at 34. Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Lopez and Ms. Lockett for their testimony. And I do want to say thank you to you for your vision and moving forward with Fortis Academy. Because I certainly believe that we do not need to put more students or users in jail. We need to get them help to get them back as productive members of society. And you know, the one thing, Dr. Colbert, that I've harped on you about on this is to get more students, because I think the more students we get, the better publicity we're going to get and the impact we'll make, and other parents too will hear, and we'll have a waiting list. And I certainly believe we could have these academies all around Harris County and need them. With that being said, though, I think that we also need to shoot, if you're not certified, shoot for a certification that we are a school that stands out, not just in the county, but through the nation. And so, and I know it takes time and effort and money, and I think we need to utilize Ms. Clark a little bit more on helping advertise this.
Now, don't blow her head up.
No, I'm not. I'm just a suggestion, because I think it's a great school, and I think it fills a great need. And I would also like for us to maybe explore through the foundation or a separate foundation that helps fund this and makes it sustainable over a lifetime, that we could get other businesses or other companies to contribute to that, to support this when they see the need, because it is great, and I think it can make a great impact on our community. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. We'll certainly take all that into consideration. And oddly enough, one of the things that promotes Fortis more than anything is the students. The students are promoting the school more than anyone. They want their friends to be sober with them, so thank you. Yes, sir.
Are you going to follow this presentation up with a written report that addresses some of the things that were in your request that you have not addressed in this presentation?
What would you like addressed?
Well, first of all, we had asked for a financial timeline, which you have not presented to us. I have never thought that this was a bad idea, but I have always thought that the implementation of it was inadequate, and we're sustaining major losses in operating this school, and we had asked for a plan to tell us how we're going to get out of this financial debacle.
Well, I just real quick would like to remind the board that I don't know of any public school that was designed to be profitable. And so our goal is to be able to leverage the tax rate to bring viable services to the citizens of the county. We have spent a lot of money on Fortis, and that money goes into two different buckets with this. We've had a lot of startup costs because of the renovations, kitchen, and this, that, and the other. And then we have the continual cost of what it costs to pay for the operating expenses, salaries, versus what we get in revenue from the services. We will never charge districts, as long as we have a tax rate, what it actually costs to have kids at our AB campuses, our High Point campuses, or Fortis. The objective is to do it below cost, and you leverage the tax rate to be able to do just that. To me, it's in some ways, Mr. Sumner's, it's an abstract notion. I don't know what goal we're trying to get to. I can think of $100 million high schools that will never break even. They weren't designed that way. They were designed to provide a service to the public, and that's where our business model is less business-like.
Well, I think you're missing the point, though.
Okay.
We have a tax rate, but we're looking at our ability to operate these schools on the basis of the ISDs that send students to us. And at this moment in time, we are operating at a very significant deficit. And no, we're not supposed to, the object is not to operate at a profit, but I tell you right now, if any ISD built a brand new school that had the minimum number of students that we have, then their superintendent would be called called on to come up with a plan, and I'm asking you for this, and we had asked for financial information about how we're going to get out of this situation financially, and you have not provided that, and I think you owe us a written report on all of these items that are following. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Colbert.
Yes, sir.
And just commend you, the administration, and the past board that voted to implement this this school. And you're right, it's never going to be a moneymaker. That's not what it's intended for. It's an investment in our future. It's an investment in these kids, and we're not giving up on them, and we're going to invest in their future, and that's going to end up saving taxpayers money, because they're not going to end up being criminals or sitting in jail or ruining their life. They're going to be a productive member of society. And so, and thank you to the parents that came and shared their stories with us today. And those are, it's always really good to hear those personal stories. But I know this school is going to be a success, because we're going to change lives, and it's going to be a positive future for every one of those kids, whether it's 10 or 34 or 100. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And from what I'm gathering, it sounds like it's more of the sustainability, I guess, is what Trustee Summers is asking about it, and what you may also want to do, and I know that you have the more concrete numbers for next year, but I'm assuming that you're probably going to look projections for 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and it's like, okay, well, maybe we're at 34 or 35 this year. If you're looking at maybe 50 or 60 the following, so what our goal, and maybe, you know we only have concrete numbers for next year, so that's all we can go on right now. But you may want to also do, I guess, both, you know, with the operation of at 34, 35 students, how much is that, and then also, you know, the following year projections. You know, knowing that we don't know them yet, but we can have an idea of, okay, at this amount of students, that would be a lot more sustainable, I suppose. Is that?
Well, so, you know, we have a very good business model at Harris County Department of Ed. I mean, every single board meeting we have, we recognize awards and for our financial accolades. And so what we try to do as an organization is identify a sweet spot, which how much skin do we want the school districts to have in it versus the tax rate? Because ultimately it needs to be cost effective to the ISDs, and we need to leverage those tax dollars. It's an economy of scale. And so I understand what Mr. Sumners is asking for, and we can put that together. My question, and I think this is probably open for further conversation later, is what exactly does that outcome look like? Because I mean, no school that I've ever thought of, no public facility is ever going to break even. So what is its goal? You know, the capital of Texas, after the renovations, when did they break even? You see what I'm saying? It's not, that's where the business model, you know, kind of breaks apart. This isn't KFC, you know. So I hear what he's saying, and we can certainly put together a report. I have 2 other presentations if you would like. Any other questions about Fortis? All right, so let's move on. Next, I was asked to present on AB West. We actually had a fantastic groundbreaking ceremony. Thank you, Mr. Flynn, for coming to that, and Mr. Cantu. Why is this moving and I'm not moving it? Daniel. That's an inside joke for people from Harris County Department of Ed. So let me go over this presentation with you real quick. It starts with this. It's a looking back. So we have 2 AB campuses. We have an AB East and an AB West. AB East is a nice looking building. Several of y'all have been to the Christmas parties out there. It's a pretty good looking building. AB West is got a great program, but not a great looking building. It's an old office building converted into a school. It was never designed to be a school, and so it's got its issues. I want to start this presentation by showing you some video footage. I did a presentation to the board who approved us moving forward with that, which many of y'all weren't on that board. So I started with this. Now this is a video, and I was going to ask for crowd participation and play some bets on where we think this ball's going to go in this video, but this shows you and illustrates some of the structural integrity issues that we have with this facility. What you see at the end of the hallway, where's Dr. Keys? Is he in here? What's the custodian's name? What, Mike? I love Mike. This is Mike at the end of the hallway with a soccer ball. I want you to keep your eye on that ball. Okay, here we go. He's letting go of the ball. He didn't push it. Will it make it to the camera? Come on, keep going. Keep going. Come on. We got a little slope issue at AB West. Okay, the next, this is what I like to call the wooden snake video. So we've got, the walls have some structural issues. We've got gaps. We see the shifting of the slab is causing some of the brick and mortar to crack outside the building. It's a dated building. It's spotless on the inside. I mean, our crew do an excellent job of keeping it clean. This is another wall where a ruler can slide under the wall. And, you know, a ruler could slide under that wall now, but 8 months from now it might not, because it may shift again. Even the sidewalk outside has been cracked and shifted, and we've had to shave that down. These are gaps in some of the drywall inside the school. And so one of the issues, the other issue that we have is this is the enrollment of AB West. As you can see, the enrollment has consistently been going up, and we're running out of room for AB West. I mean, seriously, just running out of classrooms. At these campuses, we have a watered down student to teacher ratio. I mean, we keep our numbers, Jonathan, like 5 students to 1 teacher and a TA. I mean, most high school classrooms, Dr. Mays is, where is, he's not in there. Most high school classrooms are what, 28, 30 to 1? These campuses are 5 to 2 because these are some very challenging students. So room is premium. We need classrooms, okay? So Dr. Keys has been doing a fantastic job, and his enrollment's been kind of going out of the roof, and we're really capped out right now at the size that he's at. Take you through a quick timeline. Back in May of 2016, the board approved construction on a new AB West. June of 2016, the board approved purchase of property for the new campus. In January 2007, similar to Fortis Academy, the board approved to stop all progress to AB West. A development plan was made, and this is when the feasibility committee was created, and ultimately in July of 2017, the plan was presented and approved by the board. October 2017, the board had approval of the architects. Board receives in January, May, July of 2018. Throughout that time, they receive updates about the new construction. In November of 2018, the PFC awarded the construction contract. And then in April of 2019, there was a notice to proceed, and we ultimately had the groundbreaking ceremony, okay? Some of the financials, and I'm gonna turn it over to Rich here in a second. $7 million for the funding of this project was taken out of bonds, or issued with bonds. $5 million came out of fund balance so we could share the risk. Budget expenses for construction, $11 million. The awarded contract was $8.9 million. Architects' fees and designs were about $1.9 million. And then ultimately, we'll need to put some equipment and furniture, landscaping, and other things in the facility once it opens up, which will be about $1.6 million. At this time, I'm going to call Richard Vela, who's going to kind of go over the location and some of the other dynamics of the school, and then I'll come back up to answer any questions.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. Colbert. Talking about the new school, the location, of course, is on 6.506 acres. The building, the square footage of the building is 47,970 square feet. Of course, the land cost is $959,000, and then our contractor construction cost, which Mr. Colbert elaborated, was $8.916 million. It's going to be a new one-story building. It's going to have a domestic lab with life skills in it. And that life skills will have the same thing, like almost like a small apartment. It'll have a range, dishwasher, sink, washer and dryer, oven, and basically it just has the essential needs for a domestic lifestyles lab for life skills. It will also have a kitchen for food, the dining room, which is more like the cafeteria, a gym, an outdoor court, which is part of our alternate, and basically you'll have a place for basketball court, which we'll possibly put out there. Of course, it's got a gated courtyard, walking trail, and then emergency generator is something that we decided that we needed in that building, especially with the type of students that we will be serving. It has ballistic rated glass, and that is in specific areas, and that would be in the lobby area. And then, of course, it does have a gated staff parking, which it will be used a gate opener, which is the same as what a lot of our gated campuses have. So it will use that as well. Here is the actual site right here. I'll try to put that. There's our site off Medfield and Ashburn. Proudly to say that, of course, we had a ribbon cutting or a groundbreaking ceremony. And it's anytime you get to build a new building, it's exciting. Joe Carrion, my construction director, we're both excited. We talk every morning about the project and what's going on with the project. But we're pushing dirt as long as the rain will stay away and we can get those guys out there. But there's stuff going on all the time. So we're really excited right now going on. We had our first construction meeting this morning. Joe was out there with Weber Construction, and so we're getting to know each other as far as client and the construction company. And so that's going real well. Here's our construction calendar. Basically, it started March, April is basically the site work is going right now, and then we'll get into the steel construction around June. Then we'll get into the exterior work, of course. That'll start around July, and these are all just anticipated dates, of course. We still look at the weather will determine a lot of this, but from August on through January or the end of December, we're going to be doing the interior work, and of course there'll be exterior work still going on as well. And then in January, February, we will be ready to open this building, and we're going to build the best building that we can for HCDE, and have a proud name for each and every one of the trustees on the board to have their name on that building. And I think, let me see if I click over here on the next page. Okay, so there's our tentative opening, February of 2020. And at this time, we'll let Mr. Colbert come up and ask any questions.
Stay up here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Questions, comments, concerns? So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get this thing open right at the spring semester and we can start training. There's going to be a transition period during that Christmas break where the buses will need to figure out new routes of how to get to this school. We need to get the staff to be able to fix up their rooms and do training like that. We've got new security protocols that will need to take place. But I think it's going to be a beautiful school, and it's going to be a unique school, and there's not going to be another one like it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Thank
it. All right. 2 down, 1 to go. Now I would like to present to you our current status with the Education Foundation of Harris County. And so I'll take you through this relatively quickly. When I first got here, and I've been a part of several foundations, but I've never been a part of associated with a foundation that like what Harris County had. You know, foundations break up into 2 categories. They can either be more programmatic or more philanthropic. 99% of foundations are philanthropic. Their job is to raise money to supplement the needs of ISDs or whatever organization that they were designed and created for, whether that be through providing scholarships and grants or whatever an ISD needs. What our foundation was doing was actually running a robotics program, EcoBots, and they were doing actually a pretty good job at it. It had a big following, lots of sponsors, and it was a major event. But the issue that we had is that the money to sustain it was coming from the governing body, Harris County Department of Ed, and going to the foundation to supplement it. The foundation wasn't really raising any money to sustain itself. The Harris County was sustaining it for them. And it had a separate CEO and president, which I'll talk about in a second. In 2016, so this is right when I'm completing my first year, August of 2016, you know, prior to going to this interim charge that we had by the Senate, I had been working on trying to reformat and restructure how our foundation was set up, because I felt like it should be an entity that provides more support to the ISDs instead of just running an EcoBots program. That, to me, could easily be done by a division, didn't need to be done by a foundation. Apparently, I wasn't moving quick enough, because when I went into this interim study, the interim charge, and sat before all the senators, we ended up spending quite a bit of time talking about the Education Foundation, and I had no defense for it. I just kept conceding that I agree. And I was charged up by several senators, like, you've been there for almost a year now, and you should have this done, da-da-da-da. But ultimately, it was the chairman of the Public Education Board, Chairman Taylor, who looked me straight in the eye and said, Mr. Colbert, I want you to go back to Harris County. You need to fix that foundation. It sounds like it's backwards to me. Y'all are giving it money. And I said, yes, sir. 10 days later, we had a vacancy in our CEO and president position, and that position was dissolved. Ultimately, I proposed to the board that this was the direction that the foundation was going in. And out of, say, 24 board members, all of them resigned with the exception of 4. And so essentially the board was reconstituted. I took the foundation and I took someone from my cabinet, who was Mr. Wynn at the time, and I said, you will be the liaison between the foundation and Harris County. We will no longer have a CEO and president. And I took EcoBots and gave it to Case, who you just heard about the work that they've done with Case Debates. And I felt like that they were perfectly positioned to be able to take that up and be able to not miss a step. And in fact, it actually started with them to begin with. So let's fast forward a year. The next year, August of 2017, as I said, Hurricane Harvey hit. And I'll tell you why that's important here in a second. And so there was a number of needs throughout the county. School districts were shut down for almost 2 weeks. But the board in October 2017 put an action item on the agenda that said the creation of the HCDE fund, called the HCDE Harvey Relief Grant, to benefit ISDs in Harris County, their teachers and faculty, their students and their families who were impacted by the Harvey flood disaster. It was the will of the board that wanted to do something to try to assist with a countywide problem where people were decimated from. But the issue was how, and how to do it ethically and equitably. I can't say the word, equitably. So what my other fear was is that I was afraid that we might be considered a gift of public funds by just cutting checks to ISDs, or that it would ultimately compromise the federal relief they were getting from FEMA. And so the board ultimately agreed to table this issue and seek the Attorney General's opinion to see if it would indeed be a gift of public funds. May of 2018, we got the Attorney General's opinion back, and he said it wouldn't be a gift of public funds. You can actually just take money out of your fund balance and give it to the ISDs. And it was at that point that I made a recommendation to the board that I thought it would be more prudent and logical to have a method for how we do this. If we truly want to help and impact the kids of Harris County, you don't just give a check to the ISDs that will get absorbed straight into their budget. And we have some ISDs with budget deficits where if you gave them $300,000, it would vanish in seconds. But instead, let's send money to our Education Foundation, who could create grants, scholarships, and sponsorships, and ISDs could apply for that money, and that would go directly to students. We should be sponsoring the golf tournament. We should be sponsoring, paying for a table. We should be doing all the things that support ISDs, these fundraisers that they do. Why can't we have a scholarship for a graduating senior from every ISD in the county? Why can't we have grants where school districts can apply for a grant through our Education Foundation, and we can provide money for students wanting to go to national championships for, you know, debate or helping first-year teachers. And so from June to August, we began the process of developing, I think we met twice, was that right, Dr. Amesqua, or once? Was it twice? To develop a plan, once again, utilizing our feasibility committee to develop a formalized plan for how we would do it. And we started with just a broad-based number of, let's take $600,000 a year, instead of giving them a one-time every single year, let's have $600,000 where we can go out and ISDs can access that money to support their programs, okay? At this point, I'm going to turn over to our new liaison, Ms. Bartz, who's going to tell you about some of the work that we've done up to this point from the beginning of this school year.
Thank you, Mr. Colbert. Good afternoon, trustees. Danielle Bartz is easily confused with Danielle Clark, but as Chief of Staff, as Mr. Colbert said, I get to be our external liaison. So both Danielles came on last summer, and I came on right in the middle of the process where the Board of Trustees was having development committee meetings to discuss the plan that our business office had put together to take HCDE money and figure out the process to distribute it to our ISDs. So after those development committee meetings, when we had various feedback from the trustees who participated, we decided that we needed to have stakeholder meetings with our district partners to figure out if this was in fact helpful for them. So we set up, our grants division had one of their grant coordinator meetings and invited me to be the speaker so that I could speak to the grant specialists from our ISDs and figure out through their grant process how the Education Foundation of Harris County could be helpful, could participate, how these ideas could flesh out for them. And we had 10 or 12 different districts at that grants coordinator meeting. Superintendent Colbert had a meeting with superintendents, and he had 7 or 8 district superintendents come in and meet with him. Similar feedback. The superintendents were very helpful in giving us the correct points of contact within their administrations who would have the best knowledge on processes and what things our Education Foundation could do that would be helpful and which things would be potentially, you know, on top of what they were already doing. And then finally, we set up a meeting with the foundation coordinators from the districts in Harris County that do have foundations, and the vast majority of them do. So the Education Foundation sent their designees in, and we met with them and went through the concepts of sponsorships, scholarships, and grants to see if HCDE giving that money through its Education Foundation would be helpful. And we got really interesting and useful feedback. So almost all of our ISD partners said that actually they do not support the idea of individual scholarships to students, that it's a one-time help to one student, and that where they struggle more is in programmatic funding when something didn't make it into the budget, but they have a teacher or they have an entire campus or they have an entire grade that wants to do some innovative program. It didn't make it into the budget, and now they're trying to get a grant to pilot an idea and prove that it deserves to be in the budget. So these ISDs and their foundation representatives shared not only those ideas of what would and wouldn't be helpful, but they shared kind of how they prioritize their applications for grants and scholarships and the processes that they use. So Mr. Colbert followed up with a meeting with our Education Foundation president to make sure that he knew what our Board of Trustees was discussing, what was on the table, what was still up in the air. And so we currently have the ongoing activities of the foundation, which are functioning as the independent 501c3 nonprofit that is able to bring in grants to support HCDE's divisions, right? Additional support to our programs. And on the side, these board members know that our HCDE trustees are considering the idea of funneling money to our districts that needed additional support. Because traditionally, the Education Foundation of Harris County has not given straight to the ISDs. They've supported the programs within the divisions of HCDE. So we have in front of you a list of the current board members. Mr. James Edgar is the chair of the Education Foundation of Harris County. Our treasurer, Frank Hernandez, resigned from the foundation in the last couple of months. He was working on his PhD, and as he finished, he moved, and so we are begging and recruiting one of these individuals to function as our treasurer, but that's why the president is the officer that you see listed in front of you. So we have a few examples, but we didn't want to load the slide up of some of the current grants that our Education Foundation brings in. So one of the biggest is over the last 3 years, the Education Foundation has been awarded an after-school initiatives grant from the Houston Endowment, and that is a $300,000 grant. So this is the second or third year of this, Lisa? We've been getting it since 2005. We're currently in a 3-year grant cycle from the Houston Endowment, and that's for after-school initiatives. But Centerpoint is listed in front of you as an example of one of our contributors to the All Earth EcoBot program. Best Buy supports the EcoBot Challenge. The Brown Foundation supports a summer program for robotics. The Wood Group supports EcoBot, and then we've got examples like Whataburger in front of you. Director Peacock mentioned one of the banks, and we've got Half Price Books and Sprouts that do in-kind donations. So we have our Learning Center that has workshops and trainings and professional developments, and we get in-kind donations of food and supplies. So you'll see Whataburger's donating to the Super Mentor program of Head Start, and you've got Sprouts donating in kind to Summer Learning Day events and after school initiatives, and HEB is donating food and supplies in kind donations to our Learning Center program. So these are just some of the examples of the ongoing grants and funding that are being pulled in through the Education Foundation while we are considering this separate direction. So moving forward, we will of course keep the Education Foundation and the HCDE Board of Trustees on the same page as the HCDE Board comes to consensus regarding the idea of grants, scholarships, and sponsorships moving into the ISDs of Harris County. We would then need to finalize the forms and processes that would go on. How would they apply to us, and who would be deciding which ISDs get which amounts of money. All of this is outlined in the development plan that was discussed, but we understand that there are numerous board members that weren't in those meetings. And then, of course, as decisions are made in the future direction of where money and priorities will go, then the Education Foundation will continue to recruit new board members toward those directions. And then, of course, as was mentioned in one of the development committee meetings, that we would possibly want to have a joint meeting with the Board of Trustees and the Education Foundation Board to discuss the programs, the processes, the amounts, and the details along the lines of this idea that began post-Hurricane Harvey.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Real quickly, who prepares the grants for the foundation?
So,
You can go ahead. I'm
okay.
just kidding.
I was gonna say, our grants division works with our internal divisions at HCDE to know what the needs are, and then the grant proposal has to be signed off on by the chair of the Education Foundation Board if they are applying through the foundation.
So,
Not all of our grants at HCDE go through the foundation, but some do, those that would require.
right, but the HCDE prepares the there's no employees of the foundation.
Correct. The division that wants the money is preparing what they're seeking money for.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Colbert, do we have a plan for how many board members ultimately we want on the
Working towards
foundation?
that. I mean, that's one of the things we've been trying to formalize the templates and all the forms that we're using. But once again, you know, we looked at, and I think you heard me mention when you first got on the board, trying to categorize what those members would look like. It's important that we have some previous educators on the board, I think, people who have access to philanthropic dollars. Certainly, we need to figure out how many of these existing board members of HCDE need to serve on that board. but that's something that we're going to take a hard look at. There's been some discussion about that maybe before you got on the board, whether we should have 1, 2, or all the members on there, which I don't think is a good idea. But that's something we're looking into. Thank you, sir.
Okay, the next thing is report on feasibilities, and there are none. So we're just going to go straight up to the next agenda item, which is other reports from board members. Are there any other reports? Any reports? Okay.
You attended a groundbreaking ceremony.
Okay, the next thing is Dr. Jesus Amezcua with his monthly financials. You ready? I can wait for you to take another bite.
What do you have, a protein bar in your mouth?
Crackers. Well, I need to smile. These are the financial reports for March 31st. Please keep in mind that last month we did not have a board meeting. Therefore, the February financial reports are also posted on our website. So this one includes a cumulative amount, inclusive of the February amounts as well. All our reports are posted on our website. And our balance sheet as of March 31st are $47,926,058 in assets, liabilities of $1,803,630, total fund equity of $45,910,138. We added a little different to this slide. Mr. Flynn pointed it out last month, and so we added a little reconciliation here at the bottom that includes any excess of revenues over expenses as of that point in time, so that it can tie to the balance sheet of $45 million. And so $16 million is basically the overall of those amounts that have been received for the first 7 months of the year. Our financial ratios was 63% of the year fund balance to expenditures ratio. Last year we were at 61%. Working capital ratio, we're at $46 million versus $42 million of a year ago. Our undesignated fund balance ratio as of this time is 38% versus 37% last year at the same time. Debt to income ratio, we're at 6%, which is similar to last year, where we were at 7% at the same time. Tax revenue to total revenue ratio, we're at 32%, of which last year we were at 36% at this point in time as well. And our indirect cost is at 2%, the same as a year ago. Our fee-for-service ratio is 22% compared to 24% last year, and our growth ratio is now looking better at 6%. Last year we had the Hurricane Harvey effect, which was negative 4%. Our fund balance activity from September to October and November, we had 2 budget amendments. Revenues as of March 31st, we have realized in the general fund 83% of our revenues, and March is 58% of the fiscal year. Special revenues are running at 39%, debt service 82%, overall at 62% for the year. Whoa, I didn't do anything. Okay. We're bringing it up. Hit exit. Oh, okay. Can you see it? Okay, all right. I just can't see it up there, and I was, okay. Adopted budgets and amendments, these are the progression each month of how we amend revenues and expenditures. Our expenditures year-to-date are 52%. We're at 58% for the 7th month, so that's below that spending pattern. 54% for special revenue. So overall, in terms of expenditures, we're at 52%, so slightly less than the 58% on a linear equation for the year. Donations for the month were $8,633.83. Primarily donations to Head Start, TLC, and the different Head Start daycare centers. Our property values as of March are $448 billion, and there's still $1 billion left for be reviewed, and so a projection is that we'll end up with $449 billion at the end of the year. Our year-to-date collections for taxes, we're at $22,459,480. We have delinquent tax year-to-date of minus $50,296. Some of those are refunds for previous taxes. And then we have expenditures for the appraisal district and the tax office of $42,797, of which year-to-date are $595,606. Our disbursements for the month of March, it's $2,872,387, 451 checks, 611 transactions, and 6 transfers. The detail is also attached to your to the packet, the board packet. Segment data, educator certification, we're at minus 200,237. A lot of the programs will be in the summer that will catch up. Records management, 348,392. A lot of the way we bill, we build 5 days after the end of the month, and so this doesn't capture the end of the month. So it is basically 2 month lag on the records management. So it is running pretty close at 100%. School-based therapy services subsidized at $645,020, and then schools overall are at $542,574. Positive as of this time, as of March. Those are all the cumulative schools. Now, Choice Partner is doing exceptionally well. The benefit variance at this time is $4,396,522. It is at a 77% ratio, which means that the transfer out to general fund is $4,396,522. We budgeted $2 million for the transfer for the year. It is already at $4 million for the current year. Budget amendment report for general fund. We have $31,596, and these are new grants received from the United Way and also from Channelview ISD for special schools administration, some contracts that we received. And then special revenue funds are grants. Some for the TOC Center, a non-poverty grant, the Stop School Violence in-kind budget for Center for Safe and Secure Schools, Head Start program, the cost of living adjustment that was received by Head Start. It also requires an in-kind budget from the department, and so that's $198,161, and additional in-kind of $55,162, and then the Head Start in-kind for the early childhood. It is $862,605 overall. Those are the new in-kind or cost of living adjustments grants that we received from Head Start. Earlier you saw the information on AB West construction, pretty much the same information. This is the $11 million that we started the bond series with a HCDE contribution to the project. Year to date, we have $1,670,289 in expenditures. We have available as of March $10,691,334, and we have contract with construction of $8,916,000, and then we have 2 outstanding payments, draw number 16 and 17, that you'll probably see those cleared out in the following month. We continue to receive interest at a rate of approximately $20,000 a month, of which approximately $3,700 is going to be restricted for arbitrage because we're earning at a higher rate than what we issued the bonds for. We issued the bonds at 168, and right now the interest rate market is in the 230 to 240 range. So that delta, we need to set it aside as a reserve to give it back to the IRS because we cannot keep that amount. One area that I need to adjust, and that's the construction period, October 19. The contract, by contract, we're at October 19, so we're going to need to amend that contract because the permit was received several months later, so that adjusted the construction period until February 2020. So you'll see me adjust this number to February 2020 in my next slide in the following month. Any questions on the interim financial report before I go into the investment report? In our investment report, we continue to receive the certification from GTOT. We just got recertified. There are only 22 local governments that have received this certification in 2019, so we're one of them. In portfolio as of March 31st, we have 45,658,662, of which 10,691,559 are for the Public Facilities Corporation. The majority of the funds, we have them on the pools, Tex Pool, Lone Star, Chase as well. We also have our PFC portfolio with Bank of Texas and also the Tex Pool earning interest at the pool. And the change from a year ago, it's 7,018,314 or 14% difference from a year ago at the same time. Pretty much all our funds are overnight funds, so it's short-term and it's climbing as the interest rates climb. We continue to earn higher interest rates. We have earned year-to-date $381,375. PFC has earned $141,632 of interest for the current fiscal year. We're earning $241, which is pretty much higher than it was the last 12 months. So you can barely see that. I need to change that. But about a year ago, we were earning only under 1%. So you can see how the rates have changed over the last year. This is the information in the investment report for HCDE. Any questions that you may have? No? Okay. Thank you.
Looks good. Thank you. All right, now we move on to the action items. We have the consensus action items first. Did anybody have anything that they needed to pull out of the consensus agenda? No objection. We'll move the consensus item. All in favor? Well, there's no objections.
I make a motion.
Okay, there's one.
Second.
Discussion. All approved? Opposed, same sign? Okay, 7-1. Okay, the next thing would be the approval of the minutes. There are 3 different minutes. No, that was in the consensus. Okay, very good. Pages. Okay, non-consensus. Okay, consider approval of contract and renewal option for governmental relations services, Hillco Partners, in an amount not to exceed $220,000. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion has been made. Is there any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. once again, just like I said last time when this item came up, it's important for us to have some form of representation in Austin. Currently, as we speak, there is a bill being heard in front of the House. What is it, House Bill 4626, to put this organization on the sunset, which is something typically I would certainly be in Austin to speak on behalf. Ultimately, that can't happen because I'm in a board meeting today, and my board meeting precedes that. But I feel like it is my duty as the superintendent to advocate and to defend and represent the organization for which I've been hired to do so. One of the strengths that having a lobbyist or representation is that we have people who are certainly well informed, who have the ability to perhaps, knowing that this would come to an agenda, to have it moved on a date when we weren't in a board meeting and I could actually be present. And so I think it's in the best interest of this organization that we have representation both at the state level and locally, which is part of this action item, in order to be able to defend and represent the best interest of the department. I remember the last time we had this discussion, we had a pretty lengthy discussion, and the comment was made, well, if we get a bill, we could always just have another board meeting and we could put them back and hire them back. Well, the bills are here. We have 4 of them. We have Senate Bill 2311, Senate Bill 2312, House Bill 4625, House Bill 4626. We have 4 bills. And so my fear is not just those bills. My other fear is that at the last moments of any legislative session, things get attached to bills. Sometimes they call them Christmas tree bills, where they just hang language, and it happens in real time. And I'm certainly not savvy enough or quick enough to be poised in a position to be able to stop that, prevent that, in order to keep it from having a detrimental impact on this department, all the people who work here, and all the people who get service from it. So I would respectfully ask our Board of Trustees to seriously consider this action item for approval today. Thank you.
Yeah, I find it just really underhanded that that there's a hearing at the House literally the same time as our board meeting. I think that's just completely inappropriate. I mean, how can we go down there and lobby, since we can't, hire somebody? I know, if someone brought some type of action against me, I'd hire an attorney, and I see hiring a lobbyist very similar. I know many of the board members here, if something happened to them, they'd immediately go hire an attorney. It's the same type of deal. You'd hire a lobbyist to go lobby on your behalf. You'd hire a representative. Otherwise, you're going to have bills set just an odd, maybe like today we have a board meeting, and that's whenever the time that it's set for hearing over at the House. And I just don't think that's right in any way, shape, or form. Then there's a conservative argument, and I'm almost positive that no matter what we spend on a lobbyist, it's going to be a lot cheaper than going through a sunset committee process. The last time we did it, which we actually had to pay for, I believe it cost us a few $100,000. Do you know how much it would cost? Do you know how much it would cost us going through a sunset? No, I don't. How much did it cost us last time?
I wasn't here if this.
And that was the that was the state auditor's office review.
Jesus,
that's
do
you
state
recall? I don't.
No, but how much did it cost us? Because didn't we have to pay? Okay, but for a sunset,
sunset you do. It's in the 6 figures.
Okay, so it'd be a few $100,000 just to deal with the sunset, whatever happens, assuming that nothing is going to happen. But it ended up being more money that we'd have to pay for nonsense. It's just a waste of money. So I think we should keep the lobbyists. Otherwise, you're going to have these shenanigans happen. And any other board members would cry that they needed a lawyer, but whenever the department needs a lobbyist, they cry they don't want to pay for it, which is really going to cost the department more money and then end run.
Any other comments?
Yeah. So to mainly echo, matter of fact, I got a message earlier from somebody who works for one of the representatives saying, is anybody coming? And I'm saying, well, we're in a board meeting today. So I mean, it's been. I'm glad to hear that we have members of the public willing to step in for us, but I think that is not what you want to base your the trust of the department for. You want to just hope that people volunteer to go speak up. And I think one of the suggestions were to reach out to representatives, but I mean, we only can reach out to so many people. I hope that, I don't know if anybody has. I've talked to a couple people, but I don't have everybody's cell phone number. I don't know how to reach everybody either. So I think that the discussion then was that we'll have to deal with that when it happens. It has happened. It's here, and it will move fast at this point, very fast. So I think it is absolutely critical, and especially considering that we have a hearing for one of the bills right as we speak, and nobody's able to speak officially on our behalf. I think that's a major problem.
Just so the Board of Trustees know, I did reach out to Chairman Huberty, and I did that last night and apologized to him because I felt it was quite embarrassing to have a bill that has our name in it and the superintendent doesn't show to speak on it. And so I did not mean it. I wanted him to know that we weren't in any way trying to disrespect him in his court or his hearing. And just knew, I wanted him to know that there wasn't a choice. I've got to be at a board meeting versus be in Austin. But just so y'all know, I did do that because it is very embarrassing and disrespectful for them to call out our name and no one from this organization goes and speaks on that. And it's very unprofessional.
Happen if you instead of going to the board meeting, you went to Austin to go to lobby on our behalf or your behalf or what have you?
If I did that today?
Yeah, let's just say that hypothetical happened.
I don't know. I don't want to think about that.
And would it be considered a breach of your contract?
There are some elements in my contract that require me to be at all posted board meetings. And if I am not, I need to have approval from the board not to be here.
So you couldn't even go down there, even if you wanted to?
Well, and I think I would also remind the board that during the last legislative session, there was an action item that actually banned me from testifying on the behalf of the department. Ultimately, that action item failed, but the action item that succeeded was to ban any employee from testifying on behalf of the department, because I was going to send a representative as a resource witness to speak on behalf of Harris County Department of Ed today, but that would violate local policy and that's something we need, the directive, which is something we need to address moving forward.
So you could go on your individual behalf, but you couldn't go, because if you would have went, you'd be in breach of contract of your contract with this department, right?
Yes, potentially.
Sounds underhanded to me.
Seeing none, we will move to the vote. All in favor of the HCDE going with the Hillco Partners for $220,000? All in favor?
Maximum, not to exceed.
All opposed? Motion fails 4-3. Next item on the agenda is approve of with the Houston ISD to provide breakfast and lunch for ABS East and West for a period of October 1st through August 31st, 2019, in an amount not to exceed $135,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Who was that?
Cantor.
Kent. Okay. Second? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? No. Motion 6 with 1 abstention. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of the 2019 HCDE Humble Head Start Program Performance Response Plan. Do I have a motion? I'll make that motion. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Did you vote? 601. Next item on the agenda is consider approval to submit a $428,956 non-federal share waiver request to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Moving to a vote. All in favor? Seven oh. Next item on the agenda, this is one that had a change. Consider the approval of the 2019-2020 HCDE work calendar change, or I don't have it.
Yeah, it's at our
You've had, it's been in your report.
It's at our table.
And it's at your table. I'll move this. Any second? Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? 7-0. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of service agreement with Executive Threat Solutions, LLC. Do I have a motion? I'll make that motion. Second? Anybody second?
Second.
Any discussion?
This is a private organization that's going to provide us with security now?
Yes, I believe with executive threats, and you can come up, we have our local law enforcement that go through the organization.
It is executive threat currently. What we did was we went to look at some new vendors that were on Choice Partners and comparing pricing. We also talked to Mr. Boatman with Harris County Sheriff's Office to try to see if we could get those two individuals to be here. What Mr. Boatman said is that their attorneys would have to look at it because we're not considered a school as well as like at Fortis or any of the other campuses. So therefore, they could not promise that we would have a Harris County officer here every day if that officer took off or was sick. So therefore, we would not be able to have any kind of coverage here. So that's why we're coming back and going back with executive threat.
Are these going to be off-duty police officers?
Yes, sir. Just like they are currently. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Trustee Cantu, have you reviewed this?
I had a question as to why the term was only for, what is it, 3 or 4 months?
That was because what we did was we were trying to look at going at the new Choice Partners when they came in. We were going to look at the cost to see what was the comparison between the new companies versus executive threat at that time. And then we had gotten, I think that was close to the time we had a board meeting that we had talked about Mr. Boatman in the Harris County Sheriff's Office. So we kind of went in depth and researched a little more. And then after doing all that, that's what we came up with when we started comparing pricing. We would have the officers here that with the executive threat versus the other two companies who would just give us security guards, not necessarily armed officers, off-duty officers.
So will we consider an extension to this at some, I guess, later in the summer? Or?
Well, this should carry us through August, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the agenda item, should carry us all the way through August. Okay. So
that's correct. In the month of August, we will bring the contracts for fiscal year 1920, okay. And that will be included.
Right.
Did I understand that these would not be armed officers?
No. Executive threat would be off-duty armed officers. The other two companies would not be able to give us off-duty armed officers.
Any further discussion? Go to the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Next agenda item is consider approval to amend the CH Local F fiscal year 2018-19 expenditure approval list to add executive threat solutions. I'll make that motion. Any second? Second by Trustee Moore. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. None opposed. Unanimous. Next item, consider approval of a license agreement between CitySpan Technologies. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by George. Dr. Treasurer.
Second.
Second by two. Any discussion?
Can somebody explain this to us?
So we have to collect, we're mandated to collect attendance on our youth inside our after-school
Excuse me,
programs.
can you identify yourself,
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry, I'm Lisa Carruthers, the director of the after-school division, Case
Thank
for
you.
Kids. So we collect attendance through a current system. It was bid out 3 years ago, and on 2 of our programs from our funding streams. And so the $44,000 inside this contract is a continuation from that original bid. We are also working with CitySpan, and we posted a new RFP that was approved in the consensus item to do a build for a project management system that could also capture data on our other 7 funding streams. The original attendance-based system was only on 2 of our funding streams. And so this will be a comprehensive project management system. So the 106 is for the build of a new system that will be piloted this summer and implemented by the end of the school year.
You're talking about just payment for software.
It's a custom-built project management system.
It's still software.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's not. They're not going to operate it. They're going to design it.
They're going to design it, right?
Okay.
Not that this is going to affect my vote or anything, but why is this not on the consensus item, and what is it that considers that?
So the consensus item, the public bid, which we had 4 respondents, that was approved as the bid process. And once it goes to contract, if it's over 50K, it has to get, the individual contract has to come to you for approval for board because it's over 50,000. Had they built it for 20,000, you wouldn't see the second part, but because it's over 50, you see the second part.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? We'll move to the vote. All in favor? All opposed? 7-0. Okay, now it's time for us to go into executive session under Texas Government Code pursuant to any and all purposes permitted by sections 551.001 through 551.084, including but not limited to 551.071, 551.074, and 551.082. We're in executive session as of 8:21. The time is 3:46. Harris County Department of Education is reconvening after an executive session. The time is, somebody call it? 6:25.
All right, I move to adopt the resolution of censure of Trustee Michael Wolf as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I have a statement, Mr. Flynn. The allegations made against me are completely false and motivated by Trustee Eric Dick, just as Mr. Dick's allegations that President Josh Flynn is corrupt are also false, as are his comments that Trustees George Moore and Don Summers, myself, and Mr. Flynn had a walking quorum at for a special meeting a couple of months ago. That's false. At the end of our January board meeting, Mr. Dick told me that my political career was over. He made it clear that this was, he was on a mission to destroy me because of votes I'd taken at that meeting and previously. I voted to make Josh Flynn the board president. I didn't support Mr. Dick for that. I voted to end the Hilco lobbying contract that included his consultant as a consultant on that contract. I assigned low ratings to Mr. Dick's 2 top choices for board attorney. And soon thereafter, after that threat, for these false allegations of sexual assault, and as Mr. Dick called it, sexual assault, and then sexual harassment were made by him on behalf of another person. I adamantly deny these allegations, which are false and defamatory, and Mr. Dick has also threatened me with a lawsuit. All of these actions by Mr. Dick are consistent with Mr. Dick's threats against me. The report that was issued a few months ago is fatally flawed. It's filled with inaccuracies, misrepresentations, and takes out of context things that I have said. My attorney, Jared Woodfill, can corroborate this as he was present during the interview for that report. Additionally, the report lacks any affidavits, sworn statements, or corroborating material to justify the false claims. The county attorney is currently conducting an investigation. If they feel I have done something wrong, then they can certainly pursue that in court, where I can defend myself under the law. If I am censured for sexual harassment, or as Mr. Dick says, sexual assault, which would be rape, I'm being branded for life without giving my due process under the law. All of this is just retaliation for votes that I have taken. I have filed a lawsuit against the board and I'm requesting relief from the court. I would request that this body not act as a kangaroo court and further Mr. Dick's political vendetta. I request that my fellow board members allow this to play out in the court of law, where I will be afforded my due process rights under the Texas State Constitution. If any one of you are in my shoes, you too would want your day in court before being branded as one who sexually harasses or sexually assaults women or anybody else for that matter. I've never done this, and I am shocked that these allegations have gotten this far, especially in America. I'm asking for each of the trustees to put themselves in my shoes. If you were being falsely accused just as I am, wouldn't you want to have your due process rights respected? Specifically, no one has filed a complaint against me other than Mr. Dick. I've not been given an opportunity to confront my accusers. I've not been given an opportunity to challenge these defamatory and false allegations. I have not been given an opportunity to call witnesses to rebut the allegations. Again, it's shocking that this could happen in America. Please do not allow Mr. Dick to turn this into a kangaroo court for his political ambitions. I ask that each of you review the lawsuit I have filed, which contains information previously not provided to you. And many of the people that have advanced this narrative are people that got shut out of contracts with this department, and that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Any further comment from anybody? Okay, I'll go ahead and speak a little bit about basically explaining where my vote's coming from. Looking through all this stuff that I've seen, and I was the one that made the motion to accept the report from the investigator, and I thought it was important to show a strong stand that we take these allegations seriously, and I think that's what we did in the last meeting. Since that time, as in any case, when you hear one side of the story, all of a sudden we had a month or so to consider the other side of the story. Even though we had plenty of time to discuss it and have it, nobody took the time to look at it other than I don't even, they weren't even considered, the other side. And there's always two sides to every story, and one side sounds right until you hear the other side. And then there becomes questions. And that's where you get due process. And when somebody is adamantly denying these things, we have to consider the other side. Right now, in addition to what we're trying to do and what we're processing, the county attorney, Harris County, is investigating these very allegations. And I have to make it clear, these are allegations. Nothing has been proven, simply allegations. We've had no time to review other than the time that we spent in there looking at the censure motion. None of us, other than Trustee Dick, are attorneys. We do not have the ability to look at this. And Danny, okay. And, well, myself. And I have not been able to review this in a light where the ramifications legally could stand. And a couple of key points is that there has been no official complaint from anywhere. Is that not true? There's official complaint on file? I asked you many times where the official complaint was.
Stated in the investigation report, the official complaint came from Trustee Eric Dick.
And as Mr. Wolf eloquently spoke of where that came from. And I have to say this is about fairness and not railroading, not allowing this $110 million machine to just run over anybody's rights. And I would fight for anybody here when you don't have an opportunity to defend yourself. I would vote the same way, to do the right thing every time, even when it's hard, even when I know that this will hurt my reputation. I'm going to do the right thing because of the opportunities that were not availed to my colleague, Mr. Wolf.
So I didn't ask for, just as a matter of background, I didn't ask to receive a phone call from a victim crying, saying she was sexually harassed from, a trustee here. I didn't ask for that. And I did receive, the call, and, I made what I thought was the best thing to do. And it might not have been the most appropriate, but I did what I thought was the best thing to do. And I have daughters. I have 2 daughters, ages 2 and 5. And I don't want to be, around or approve of anything, especially where a trustee is trying to position himself to get some type of favors, from, someone of the opposite sex. The stuff that happened, I'm disgusted with. I'm completely disgusted. I'm sitting here thinking, if this happened to one of my daughters, what would I do? And I'd probably do some stuff that was inappropriate. So I do want to congratulate, the department at the hard work it's done. Especially, I've gained new respect for the board attorney, because this entire time the board president has tried to minimize this whole investigation. He's tried to derail it. He's tried to prevent it from happening. He's done everything he could to prevent justice from occurring. And this is just a censorship. It's hardly anything. It doesn't go far enough. If you sexually harass, if you use your position as a trustee to sexually harass somebody, you shouldn't be elected. You shouldn't be on the board. That's unacceptable. As a Christian, I find it appalling and immoral. As a father, I'm upset by that. It's wrong. It's very wrong to use your position of power to try to coerce somebody into doing something, to trying to go out on a date with you or what have you. I think it's just sad, and it's sad to try to be to be a position of power and try to prevent something from happening. Wherever you had an independent process, you had an independent investigator, and he said stuff plenty about me that I don't particularly like. But, it was a process that happened, and he came to a conclusion independently. I didn't have any influence on it. Most of the board members didn't have any influence on it. He made his own decision, and he found independently that Mike Wolf sexually harassed somebody. I think it's also wrong of Mike to go and file lawsuits that actually name the victim. I think that's horrible. That's appalling. That's immoral. And censorship is not enough. He needs to resign. I've repeatedly say that. He should resign. Because I tell you, in 2020, if he runs for re-election, it's going to be a stain on the Republican Party. It's going to be a stain on local politics. And this is sad. The county attorney is, my understanding is the county attorney is looking to remove Mike from office. And I understand why they're doing that. But what have you, this is the process we went through. Thank you, thank you, Harris County Department of Education. Thank you, Sarah, for being steadfast. Even though the board president tried not to have this on the agenda, even though the board president tried to minimize this during the entire process, thank you for doing what you did.
I've got another comment.
Hold on. I just want to make sure. Did I impede? I'd like to address Sarah. Did I try to take this off of the agenda?
Off of the agenda for April 17th?
Yes.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Did I impede you in doing what you did?
My role was to provide the board with professional legal advice, and I believe that I've fulfilled that goal.
Thank you.
Mr. Dick is the one that needs to resign. He's been making threats to people that he would leave the Republican Party if I kept pushing him. He is the one that enticed this young lady to try to come to me. I didn't do anything. It was him. And then he got an applicant for board attorney to go talk to her to try to come up with some allegation. And it's just ridiculous. You know, I'm an uncle to a 12-year-old young lady and a 5-year-old little girl, and I would never do this sort of thing. And I definitely had no interest in the young woman that's at the center of this, because she was attacking me on Facebook as I ran for Justice of the Peace last year. What she was trying to do, I think, was trying to calm me down over how upset I was that she'd been attacking me, calling me a homosexual, in fact, or at least indicating that on her Facebook post. So, you know, I hope that none of y'all are ever faced with this sort of thing in America. Thank you.
Call the question.
Hold on. Is there any more discussion? Okay.
But you'd have to have a second to call the question.
You don't. Yeah. Okay. All in favor calling the question? Raise your hand.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Voting?
Opposed?
Okay. The motion passes because
Okay.
it's 2/3.
The question is called. All those in favor of the censure of Michael Wolf, raise your hand. And all those opposed, raise your hand. Abstention. Okay. Next item. We have informational items. We don't go over those? We'll entertain a motion. Which motion? Motion to adjourn, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. We are adjourned, 6:40.